Hello and welcome back once again to the HR Social Hour Half Hour Podcast. This is episode 58. John and Wendy talk to John Baldino. I'm your host, John.
And I'm Wendy. How is everything, John?
I'm well, Wendy. I'm doing very well. I feel like I've been able to talk to you a little bit more lately because I'm not traveling as much.
Right.
I got a major surprise, though.
Yes, you did.
About a week or so ago. I am going to be attending WorkHuman.
Woohoo!
I am super excited.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know, I actually went to school in the Nashville area, so I lived there for many years. It has a very, very fond spot in my heart. I love going down there. It has been ages since I've been able to go, and the opportunity arose to attend. I'm really excited. If I get to ask Clooney my Batman and Robin question, I think I will be set for life. But no, I just am really excited. We got a lot of previous guests, people that we know are going to be in attendance. I will be tweeting feverishly and furiously for those that are not able to attend. Wendy, I'm sorry you're not going to be there, but I will.
Yeah, timing did not work.
Yeah, it happens, but again, we're really excited. I'm very, very excited. If you are attending and you hear this beforehand, make sure to keep an eye out for me. Would love to connect in person if we've not. Just really excited for the opportunity, and I'm sure I'll have something to tell stories about once we get back.
Definitely.
But enough about that.
Yeah.
Excited as always for tonight's guest. I know we've been talking about trying to get him here for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Wendy, I'll let you make the introduction. We will get started.
Yes, very excited to welcome John Baldino to the show tonight. Been following him on Twitter for a while. He has 27 years in human resources and 18 years in strategic roles. He has been very active in a variety of SHRM, local, state, national, keynote speaker, blogger, kind of bonded with him a little bit over his Pittsburgh teams, the Phillies and, not the Phillies, the football team, the Eagles, because they beat the Vikings once in a major game, but we won't go into that tonight. John, welcome to the show. And our first question is, what's in your glass?
I am drinking a 2016 Merlot at the moment.
Nice.
Yes. On a cold
Very
night,
nice.
It's very nice.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. And I'm sorry about the Eagles. I mean, I'm so glad you're not bitter about that and still holding on to it. But
I couldn't get the team right now.
Get the team right. So
yes.
Well,
what sport we're playing.
I had your Twitter bio up and it says Phillies, and I was like, no, that's not right.
Well, it is right. I mean, for me, it's right.
Yeah, for you, it's right.
Yes.
No, we had a little fun that year, but that's all right. It's all in good fun.
It is. But we are on to baseball season. So, you said my Phils. We just got Bryce Harper. I'm a season ticket guy. So very excited for this season. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, that'll be fun.
Yeah.
That'll be fun.
John, I know we've had a chance to interact just a little bit over the last few years and got to visit for a minute or two there in Chicago last summer. Know a little bit about what you do now and a little bit about, kind of what you have going on, but don't know a lot of your history. How exactly did you get started in human resources? And then what led you to start your own business in human reso?
Well, how did I get started? So I started in personnel about 102 years ago, somewhere around there. And it started for me on the retail space. I actually started for a regional department store out of the Philadelphia area called John Wanamaker's. And so I had the opportunity to work. It's one of those jobs where you start kind of doing everything. So, it overlapped into, in those days, credit. I had got to be involved with actually doing the morning count on some days of all of the take from the day before for the department store, and was the store announcer when need be, and got to cover gift wrap twice until they saw the way I wrap packages to cover someone's lunch break, and I was done on that responsibility. But I was an associate trainer, and so in those days, really most of it was very tactical training. So you had to do register, stock, returns, credit applications, those kinds of things. And especially with the seasonality of the retail business, you would just find yourself doing quite a bit of that training late summer, early fall, getting geared up for the holidays. And I would say training was really the foray for me to get involved in the broader human resources scope. And from there, wound up moving into human resource specific roles through the years in different industries. So I've been, besides retail, restaurant and education, nonprofit, manufacturing, distribution, banking and finance, all kinds of places, from startups to huge companies. So it's kind of been a fun run. And so about in 2012, I was VP of HR for an organization and left to start up Humoriso. And really the goal of it was to provide all levels of human resources support to organizations that probably, that small to mid-market, it was my immediate thought, that probably weren't going to be able to afford the kind of support that some of their competition on the larger end had in-house. And so to help them bring to bear some resources and go toe to toe, because they were already competing in some ways on the World Wide Web for business. Some of them were competing contractually. And then we were moving really into a different economy with the talent pool that was out there. And so I felt like it was a good time to kind of bring these services to bear. Again, I'm an old guy, so I was around to watch payroll become an outsourced commodity in HR, and I was around to watch benefits move from major medical to HMOs and have a brokerage line that started to matter. It just seemed to me that human resources as a whole had opportunity to be supportive that way as well for organizations.
That's cool to be able to see the whole cycle and know how we got to where we are. So with that knowledge behind you, what's the top challenge you've seen coming up for 2019? And is there something small HRs can do to start being better or improve when we take on that challenge?
Yeah, I think, and a few people have already heard me sort of bang this drum for this year so far, but learning management, I think, is top priority. I don't know that organizations can dance anymore with, find us a seminar you want to go to and we'll reimburse you. Although that's great, I don't know that that's enough anymore. I think that companies have to be really proactive about bringing true learning opportunities to their talent, both for talent management, kind of growing who you have internally, but it's also a retention tool, quite honestly. And in the marketplace that we find ourselves in right now, as far as competent talent is concerned, we, as the organizations say, who's holding on to talent, we've got to be smarter than just letting it fall to, hey, will you pay me more to jump ship and join you, other company? But rather, what are these other things that you'll be able to give me and invest in me to help me get better at what I do, to enlarge the skill sets that I have currently, to enrich them? And what else could I pick up and really add to my repertoire? And if you're not an organization that's willing to have that talk with me or give me those opportunities, and I'm not necessarily talking about, bringing in some huge formal learning management system, although that's cool. I have no beef with those folks, and I have a lot of love for those organizations that do it, those online, especially libraries that we can access. But I think we can be creative. There's a lot of stuff even locally that HR pros that are in smaller organizations could be more adept at finding and bringing to bear within the organization. That's what we have to get smarter with in 2019, I believe.
John, I think you're the first person we've talked to that's really mentioned that piece of what we do. And I think it's an excellent point. We're so concerned about trying to find people to begin with. And then we've talked about recruiting, we've talked about retention strategies and what have you, but really talking about learning management and not, I guess, we had a guest recently that talked about succession planning and working with small businesses where it's a question, 92-year-old grandmother was writing paychecks still. What about that new person that's not 92 that's going to be coming in? How are we going to make sure that we keep them and teach them everything they need to know and make them better skilled and upskilled and what have you? I think it's an excellent point.
Yeah, thank you. And I totally agree with that in terms of some of the situations organizations find themselves in. I'm a very big workforce planning kind of guy. So I do take that broader viewpoint. Workforce planning is business strategy and staffing strategy and, holistic talent management. So that is inclusive of succession planning. But I think sometimes in human resources, we've done a disservice and sort of raised the bar of succession planning over and above all those components of good workforce planning. And we're missing it a little bit. And part of that is, what are we doing with who we have? Stop looking for people to necessarily leave right away. Well, our turnover rate's 22%, so we expect X, Y, and Z. And it's okay for us not to be the norm. And average is an average because some are better and some are worse. So why don't you shoot to be the 5% turnover company by investing in your people rather than being okay to be average?
Yep.
Amen.
Definitely. I love it.
Amen. John, you've been active on Twitter for a long time. Like you said, you've been at this many, many years, and was actually looking at your profile, and you're getting ready to hit 10 years on Twitter, with your profile and being part of the HR conversation. What led you to initially get on Twitter? And for those listeners, because we do have a contingent that I know are not using it, they hear it from us. We obviously have built a lot of what we do on that platform, but for you, why continue? What's been effective for you there?
I have to be honest and say that when I first got onto Twitter, I'm a bit of a celeb junkie. I mean, I've had my brushes with fame here and there, and so I think I still like to sort of ride that train at moments. So when I first got onto Twitter, it was totally voyeuristic and for entertainment purposes. And so I again, it was still early, and people don't realize how, in the grand scheme of things, how quickly Twitter really has evolved into something kind of formidable from a communication standpoint, versus where it was 10 years ago, let's say, when I first got on. And so, I connected with Tony Hawk and Alyssa Milano probably pretty quickly when I first got on. And when Tony Hawk followed me back and Alyssa Milano replied to some of my tweets, I was like, Jesus has come and my world has meaning. And so and so that was what it was for me. But then from a professional standpoint, to watch that evolution over the last 10 years and for there to be the kind of engaged conversation that goes on this platform is quite remarkable. And I know that there's some hashtags that are really wise for people to follow if you really are looking for sort of the professional development and honestly the professional acumen that some of these folks involved on Twitter bring. You two see the same thing. I mean, there's just so much rich content there, but you have to be smart about where you put yourself. And I would say, for those people who are on Twitter right now, be wise about what kind of content you want to look for. Because if you want to find anything, it's there. I just can't say it's all really good. And opinion doesn't necessarily mean fact. Lots of people like to have opinions. They'd be too scared to tell it to you face to face, but give them a handle on Twitter and they'll tell you everything they think. So kind of balance that with sort of the full spectrum of what someone brings to the table. Wendy, you mentioned that I blog as well. I mean, I think you got to look at people's content outside of just that one arena. But if you're not on Twitter yet, I have to say it will probably surprise you to know how much good stuff there is to find in that vein. It has been a blessing, in all honesty, for Humoriso, right? Its evolution as an organization. The connection that I've had on Twitter, it's just opened a lot of doors for the organization. And in 6.5 years, this company has grown really well. And I attribute a good portion of that, honestly, to that social media platform.
John, I've got to ask, when you talked to Alyssa Milano, did you talk to her about the movie Commando?
It's so funny. We didn't go that far because I was super scared that I was going to be stalkerish because I must have written 45 tweets and kept deleting them before, draft them out and then no, that's creepy. And then type something, no, that's creepy. But I wound up telling her that I had a crush on her from Who's the Boss, and she sent me some hearts back from that. And I still have that. And it's awesome. I'm like, she would not engage with me were it not for some of these platforms. I mean, it's nutty. And then again, through the years, the other folks that I've gotten a chance to chat with, and it's just unbelievable the way that the world can open up and become a whole lot smaller through these platforms.
I think that's the beauty of social media is if without social media, I would never know you, John, or John, because it's made the world flatter. And so it's kind of equalized being able to connect with things. I mean, I still remember when Alton Brown tweeted at me because I asked a question. I was making one of his recipes and asked a question on Twitter and he responded. And yeah, you like fangirl about it forever.
Yeah.
Because it's just,
Yeah.
you wouldn't get that otherwise. So yeah, I think I love that so much. And John, so you've been active with SHRM at the local level and state level for quite a while. And actually that's when we met in person was at the
Yeah.
SHRM DLS conference, which was awesome. What's one of the biggest challenges you've had as a leader at the local level? And what can other local leaders learn?
It is a good question. And so I would say I'm on my second year of my presidency for our local chapter in the Philly area, which is called Tri-State HRMA. It's really been an interesting 2 years, and that's such a terrible word to use. But, I'd been vice president before president. Just it's not a requirement, but it just worked out that way. And so then I moved into the president role. I've experienced things as president that I wasn't even exposed to as vice president. It's kind of shocking to me how much of a divide there is between those two roles. But I guess two things. One, people in general don't seem to like to join things anymore. I think not just for SHRM on the local level, but a lot of professional organizations, membership as a whole is down. And so you see, Rotary and Kiwanis and some other organizations that had been kind of mainstays a generation ago are combining, right? There's counties and regions that are combining chapters because of sustainability. They need to have a critical mass. And I don't think SHRM is quite there yet, but I do think we've got to be smarter about what it really means to join a chapter and what do you really get for that? What's the value connected to that? And doing things the same way all the time won't necessarily get you the results you want. Don't change for change's sake, but take a look at what you're doing and why you're doing it and measure what the response rate is to that. And the other thing that comes to mind is the status quo. So kind of connected to that, it's interesting, a lot of folks asked me to be president because they were like, you've got great ideas and we really want to implement some things and we know you're so creative and you've grown your own business and we know our chapter will appreciate that. And yet that's coming out of one side of their mouth. And on the other side, it's like, but don't you touch this. Don't you do this. Don't you do that. Right. And so I would say just get ready for the status quo to be a bit more entrenched than you realized. And these are lovely people. I'm not mocking anybody, but it's sort of the systemic nature of an established organization. Our chapter is, well over 30 years old, probably closer to 40 actually. And so you have a long history there of folks who've been setting the tone for what it's like. And, this rebel Baldino comes in and is like, yep, you know what? We're redoing the website and we need a new logo and this, that, and the other. And people are like, that's awesome. And then behind the closed doors, it's somebody's got to take him out. So, like that's kind of what you have to be ready for some folks in the local area. But the biggest issue, to come back to the first one, is people don't join groups, period, the way that they used to. And what does that mean for us in the fabric of SHRM?
That's an interesting point. And, when you say that, it makes sense because we've seen where I'm at, we've seen the same thing where, how do we get people to join and how do we show the value? And I think it's different too. So, what works for you in your area isn't going to necessarily work in South Dakota. So trying to figure out what that value is and how to articulate it's tricky.
And I think that's where a time like VLS, where we met, is so important because you get to hear these ideas from other people. And you're right, not everything works everywhere, but at least you're kind of being challenged to think more creatively.
What else can we do? And just trying different things.
And if I might throw one other quick point in, and John, you brought it up at the beginning of the broadcast with WorkHuman. I think the more that we expose ourselves to other companies and organizations, conferences, the more that we see that there's a wider world than just SHRM, and that there's different kinds of conversations and connections that can be had. I mean, WorkHuman is one of the best, if honestly, it's the best conference that I attend each year, hands down. And so I'm excited to be there again this year. And again, I get to be up front for one of the sessions. And so, they've been gracious to me over the past years. And actually, Robin Schooling and I get to do something on culture with a couple of other people. So it'll be fun.
Oh, how awesome. Very fun. And I think that's true. It's what other things are out there? There's a lot of content and being delivered in a lot of different ways. One of the most crazy things we did here in Brookings was we brought Disrupt HR here.
Yeah, and that's awesome.
Yeah, just getting the content in different ways.
It is that is the hardest thing I've ever spoken at. I did Disrupt in Philly, and those 5 minutes, I know it's only 5 minutes. I probably practiced that more than I ever have for any other keynote I've ever delivered. Like, it was amazing.
Oh yeah. It's the discipline of it. I love those because you have to be disciplined. You can't ramble.
Absolutely.
You have to know what you're going to say. Well, John, it is now time for everyone's favorite part of our show, the half-hour question connection. Brand shiny new for 2019. Our first question is, who was your first professional mentor, and what was the most important or impactful thing you learned from them?
There was a young lady when I was in college that I did some volunteer work, and we led a group together. And one of the things that she said to me early on, and she was really a peer, but definitely stepped into a mentor role for me in this. She first brought up the phrase "choose your battles" to me. And I will tell you, as a kid growing up in Philly, there were certainly things that were too much of a fight for me. And I cared about a lot of things. And so to have someone sort of challenge me on that, to say, you got to choose your battles. I'd never had anybody say that to me before. And I will tell you, when she first said it to me, the first thing I thought of was, who the heck are you talking to? Mind your business, right? Like, I'll choose don't tell me what to do. I'll choose what I want to choose. And even in that response, I realized how fight oriented I was internally, how much, even if I didn't express it externally, internally, there just was that tension. And so it really helped me to sort of step back a lot more, especially as time went on in my professional development, to consider perspective a bit more. I'm not saying that I've arrived at any sort of nirvana with it, because, catch me on a bad day and I'll happily over respond. But she was the first person to really challenge me with just a short tidbit that just stuck with me for all these years.
John, who's one person that you've gained in your network in the last year that you think more people should know?
I might have two for this one. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Tamara Raspberry, everybody better get on right now and connect to her. If you don't know Tamara, she is the bomb. Like, just great perspective. Love her. We probably were separated at birth. I mean, it's really a bad scene when we're together, but in a good way. And so, like, she's just great content, great thoughtfulness. She's an excellent writer. And I'd say Keith Enox, who is newer, I would say, within the past year, on the blogosphere with Working Title HR. Another great guy to know. And I know that Keith and I have also been accused of having a bit of a bromance, and I will own that, and I don't really care. I'm secure. So, I would encourage folks listening to definitely connect with them, but glad that they're in my network.
Great folks.
Both
yes,
previous guests were big fans as well. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, John, if you could go back to the start of your career, what's one piece of advice you would give yourself based on what you know now?
I probably would tell myself to chill out. A bit of an overachiever. My esteem was definitely connected to what I could do, because I wasn't so secure in who I was. And I know this isn't therapy. I'm actually able to say these things very succinctly and not, melt into a puddle. But, I don't know that I really felt that great about myself growing up, but I overcompensated by what I could do. I think I would tell myself, just relax, like, you're okay, run with what you love, and it's going to work out.
John, beyond what you do with Tri-State HR, how else do you enjoy giving back to the HR community?
I am a big believer in the collegiate connection that we should have. So definitely once a semester, if not twice a semester, I am on a college campus talking to young men and women that are seeking a business career. Sometimes it's in human resources. Sometimes they're not quite sure. And so just spending time with them, sharing what I've learned. I try to be a little humorous to help it kind of go down easy, but help people to sort of take a look at what it is that they think they want to do. It is still happening in colleges where I'll ask people why they think they want to pursue a career in human resources and they tell me that they like people, and that's just
Don't do it.
right. I mean, it's right. If you like people, it's the
Yep.
worst job to take because you will not like them. You will not like them very soon after you start a career in HR because you recognize how petty and self-absorbed and self-centered and micromanaging and fill in the blank that people can be. And so if you only expose yourself to the worst in a reactionary role, as you likely will have early on in HR, you will hate people. So don't look at it just for that reason. However, if you feel like there's an opportunity you have to relate to folks and that you help people to see beyond the situation that's staring them in the face at the moment, then okay, let's think about the way in which those communication strengths can be used to further your career and to be a benefit to those that you'll serve. Or if you think that you've got an opportunity to really design programs and curriculum that will challenge and inform folks, and you really are excited about curriculum design or certain levels of organizational training, awesome. Let's talk through how you could bring that educational prowess to bear in an organization. If it's specific as far as the skill set is concerned, I think that's really where we should spend our time. And I love to have those conversations with folks who are trying to figure out, especially on that collegiate or early in their career. I do a lot with young professionals as well. What is it that you want to get to? And you guys probably have experienced this as well. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? That horrible question that is still asked in interviews for some godforsaken reason. And people will say, well, I see myself as a director of HR, a VP of HR. Why? Why? Because you think that that's just the path that you have to take? Why would you do that to yourself? Not everybody has to be that. Maybe you'll find something very exciting with HRIS, with AI or tech in some other way in human resources. Maybe you will go down a training route. Maybe you will find something legal and decide to go back to law school. I mean, there's a million things that you could do. So we really should try to help folks see how wide human resources really is and allows people to sort of exercise their skill sets in.
So, John, what's your favorite movie?
Oh, these questions kill me because I just love so many things. I probably would say Shawshank Redemption.
How about your favorite musician or band?
Billy Joel, hands down.
My husband.
14 times I've seen him in concert. Yes, I mean, he's killer, just so good. But I listen to so much stuff. I mean, I think that my kids will see my collection and they're like, what is wrong with you? Like, how do you, like, alphabetically, it's, Pavarotti, Pearl Jam, and Prince. What the heck is the matter with you? Right. So I listen to a lot of stuff.
That's all good. It's all about variety.
Exactly right.
How about a favorite TV show?
Of all time, I might say The Wonder Years.
Really?
Yeah, I just find it to be so interestingly moving. And I think that the storytelling behind it is quite wonderful. I would say that, though I wouldn't put it on the same level, if I have to pick like a current TV show, The Goldbergs has some Wonder Years-esqueness to it in the way it crafts a story, but it's more on the ridiculous than I think The Wonder Years was. But yeah.
Well, John, as I look and try to make connection, I'm disappointed you didn't say who's the boss as far as
right. I did used to watch Charmed religiously, but I could never tell you what any of the episodes were about, which is really an indictment of my character when I say that. So.
Well, there is a band called The Wonder Years now, and my older boy is a big fan, and I threatened to take him when he was 14 or 15. I threatened to take him to a show and just stand in the back and Where's Wendy the whole time. He didn't get it. I didn't do it. I wasn't that rough with him. But having said that, if you're not watching Shawshank or listening to Billy Joel or watching The Wonder Years or The Goldbergs, which my Twitter famous at one point was Adam Goldberg's first real girlfriend tweeted me back after that show. That's awesome. Time when they broke up. Yeah, she like, I don't know how she found me, but she found me. Awesome. And that was kind of nuts. That is awesome. Yeah, but when you're not doing those things, what else do you like to do outside of work?
I'm a husband and father, so I've got 3 teenagers. One's in his second year at Liberty University down in Lynchburg, Virginia. And then I have two girls in high school. One is about to graduate as well in a few months, and she's figuring out where she's going. She's probably going south as well, but probably more south, I think Florida. And then my youngest is a sophomore in high school. So I spend a lot of time with the family, doing my darndest to embarrass each of them for various reasons, as is my fatherly privilege and right. But no, we have a blast together. And so I really genuinely enjoy spending time with my family. It's absolutely not a duty. So I spend a lot of time doing that. And, as Wendy mentioned, I write quite a bit. So I definitely take some time on my own to sort of sit with my thoughts and journal and craft some things as a result.
So, John, finally, if you weren't in the HR profession, what do you think you'd be doing?
Oh my gosh. I think I'd be doing something in the entertainment industry, probably some sort of television host. When I was in college, I worked at a radio station because I wanted to be a radio DJ. And so worked at a top 40 station in Philadelphia, which was a great gig. I found it to be a little cutthroat, and so it scared me off. And so I went into the HR route, honestly. But I guess, I think that's what I would be doing. I would probably be hosting some sort of crazy show, or be a judge on RuPaul's Drag Race, or have my own show on the E channel or something like that.
John, I have to say, you mentioned you've been at this almost 102 years.
Yes.
I'm glad you're doing this and not the radio or entertainment route, because we probably wouldn't know you. And I have to say, I've really, really enjoyed the conversation. Appreciate so much the perspective that you bring. And I love the fact you have fun with it. It's so apparent what you do and how you carry yourself with us. And I just want to thank you again for that. Now, I know the majority of our listeners probably are already following or know you, but those that do not, what's the best way for them to reach you out there?
First of all, thank you for that. Appreciate those words. For sure, they could visit the Humoriso site, humoriso.com. But if you want to just first connection on Twitter, it's JB Alive.
We will have all that in the show note for sure. And Wendy, how about you? What's the best way for the listeners to find you out there?
Best way to find me is on my blog, mydailyjourney.com. Daily is D as in dog, AILEY. And always, the fourth Sunday of each month, you will find me on Twitter as part of the monthly HR Social Hour Twitter chat. How about you, John?
Again, if you're listening to this prior to WorkHuman, you'll find me there. So if you're listening either right before or maybe on the way to Nashville, find me while you're there. I may have gifts and prizes. You never know. Otherwise, hrsocialhourpodcast.podbean.com. You look at the left-hand side at the top of the screen, 3 little lines. Click there. You'll see all the links to all my social. You'll find the show, download, rate, review, continue to share. We always appreciate anytime you boost the signal. It helps us so very, very much. So again, John, appreciate you being with us tonight. So for the HR Social Hour half-hour podcast, I'm John.
And I'm Wendy. And as always, be sure to connect,
give back, and network.
Network.
Take care, everybody.
We'll see you soon.